Picture this, 1991, and Chrysler, yes, Chrysler, drops a $17,000 family sedan that runs with a $60,000 hand-built BMW M5. Not almost, not on a good day. Motor Trend tested both, 6.4 seconds to 60. Both of them. The Dodge matched the BMW's time exactly, for less than a third of the price. The Spirit RT, a car nobody remembers, wearing a body nobody wanted, packing an engine nobody expected. This is the story of the fastest sleeper sedan America ever built, and why Chrysler killed it the moment it proved they could actually compete. The Dodge Spirit RT was automotive insanity wrapped in rental car camouflage. While BMW was hand-building M5s in Germany for the price of a small house, Dodge was bolting Lotus-engineered turbo engines into K-car platforms for Honda Accord money. And somehow, impossibly, inexplicably, magnificently, it worked. Detroit actually built something that didn't embarrass itself against European exotics. Naturally, they killed it in 2 years. Under that anonymous hood sat the Turbo 3, a 2.2-liter inline-4 engineered by Lotus, who took Chrysler's proven 2.2-liter block and crowned it with a bespoke 16-valve DOHC head. Garrett intercooled turbocharger, sequential multiport fuel injection, twin counterbalance shafts, sophisticated engine management. Chrysler brought the foundation, Lotus brought the brilliance. Colin Chapman's company transformed a rental car engine into something that could embarrass V8s. British refinement met Detroit durability, and somehow produced magic. 224 horsepower, 217 pound-feet of torque, and a red line at 6,500 RPM that sounded like a Japanese sports sedan having an identity crisis in a Detroit body shop. This wasn't just dropping a turbo in a family car. This was legitimate motorsport engineering that happened to live in automotive witness protection. Let's talk about what this thing could do. Car and driver strapped on their testing equipment in March 1991 and recorded 5.8 seconds to 60 miles per hour. 5.8. The quarter mile, 14.5 seconds at 97 miles per hour. Top speed, 141 miles per hour, in a car that shared its platform with the Plymouth Acclaim. Physics filed a formal complaint. That BMW M5 E34 everyone lusted after? Motor Trend tested it, 6.4 seconds to 60. The Spirit RT with the same publication, 6.4 seconds. Exact, same, time. The M5 cost $60,000. The Spirit cost $17,820. For every M5 you could buy, you could have 3 Spirit RTs and still have money left over for the insurance you desperately need. The Dodge made the BMW sweat, then undercut it by $42,000. Plot twist, Motor Trend didn't just test them. They crowned it the winner of their domestic sports sedan shootouts in both 1991 and 1992, beating the Taurus SHO back-to-back. The rental car-looking Dodge sedan kept destroying the competition, while everyone else was saving for Taurus SHOs or drooling over M5s. The car everyone thought was a joke kept winning comparisons from people who actually drove it. Chrysler wasn't subtle about their ambitions. They claimed the Spirit RT was the fastest sedan made in America. Then they went further. The fastest mass-produced sedan in the world. That second claim depended entirely on how you defined mass-produced. The M5 was hand-assembled, so technically Chrysler found a loophole in the rules and drove a turbocharged K-car through it at 141 miles per hour. The Lotus connection wasn't marketing fiction. Colin Chapman's engineering firm actually designed the cylinder head and engine management, DOHC architecture, variable length intake manifold, sophisticated boost control. Lotus was famous for making lightweight British sports cars that broke down constantly. Chrysler had them engineer a turbo 4-cylinder for a front-wheel drive sedan platform that could survive Michigan winters. Only in the 1990s could this collaboration happen. British precision meets Detroit durability. And somehow it worked. Let that marinate for a moment. Lotus engineering, K-car platform, fast as an M5, $17,000. Motor Trend shootout champion, twice. The Turbo 3 engine was a technological showcase. And for once, engineers were apparently sober when they designed it. 8.5-to-1 compression ratio optimized for boost. Garrett T3 turbocharger with air-to-air intercooler mounted low in front of the engine. Sequential multiport fuel injection. Each cylinder got its own dedicated injector firing in proper sequence. Twin counterbalance shafts eliminated the vibration that plagued other 4 cylinders. This wasn't a parts bin special. This was proper engineering that happened to wear a Dodge badge. Power delivery started at 2,800 RPM when that 217 pound-feet of torque arrived, then stayed flat until 4,800 RPM. Peak horsepower hit at 6,000 RPM and the engine would happily rev to 6,500 before the limiter intervened. This wasn't tractor motor torque disappearing at high revs. This was a power band that kept pulling like it was angry at something. Behind that Lotus-engineered power plant sat a Getrag A568 5-speed manual transmission. Only transmission available. No automatic option. No comfort model. You wanted a Spirit RT? You learned to drive stick. Or you bought a regular Spirit and accepted your mediocrity. Chrysler didn't compromise. The gearing was tuned for high-speed stability rather than short sprint ratios. This thing was designed to devour highways, not just drag strips. The chassis underneath was where reality check arrived, and reality brought receipts. This was still a K-car platform. McPherson struts up front, beam axle in rear, designed for rental fleets and airport shuttles. Chrysler tried upgrading it. Larger sway bars, stiffer springs, Monroe gas shocks, 4-wheel vented disc brakes. They put P205 60R15 Michelin XGT V4 tires on 15 by 6-inch wheels. Then they bolted 224 horsepower to the front wheels and hoped physics would cooperate. Physics did not cooperate, but honestly, the chassis deserved more credit than it got. Car and driver described it as feeble, which was dramatic but not entirely fair. The skid pad recorded 0.80 g lateral acceleration. The M5 managed 0.81 GA, so the Dodge was 1/100th of a G behind. Yes, torque steer yanked the wheel under hard acceleration. Yes, wheel spin plagued first and second gear. But this was a K-car platform keeping up with a purpose-built BMW sports sedan. That's not failure. That's overachievement on a budget. Braking was acceptable. 70 miles per hour to 0 in 207 feet. Not spectacular. Not terrible. Acceptable. Optional ABS cost $899 extra, and many buyers checked that box, because stopping 2 turbocharged tons of front-heavy sedan with rental car brakes required all the help available. Chrysler knew what they were doing. They just couldn't afford to do it better. Inside? Pure rental car chic, and Chrysler made 0 apologies. Gray cloth seats, plastic dashboard, instrumentation that looked borrowed from a Plymouth Voyager, because it basically was. No leather, no wood trim, no pretense of luxury. The only hints something special lurked underneath were the Turbo 3 badges and the boost gauge nestled in the instrument cluster. Chrysler wasn't trying to compete with BMW's interior. They were competing with BMW's stopwatch while laughing at BMW's price tag. The exterior was worse, or better, depending on your love of sleepers. The Spirit body was designed to be anonymous, perfect for fleet sales and rental agencies where styling scared corporate buyers. Chrysler added ground effects, a subtle rear spoiler, and fog lights. The RT got unique 15-inch wheels. That was it. No aggressive stance, no hood scoops, no visual warning that this thing could embarrass sports sedans costing 3 times as much. It was automotive stealth by accident or design, probably both. Let's compare this to the competition. Ford Taurus SHO, $22,071, 3-liter Yamaha V6, 220 horsepower, 6.1 seconds to 60. Impressive car. Looked better. Handled better. Felt more refined. Got walked by Dodge's Turbo 4-banger in a straight line. The Taurus was the car enthusiasts wanted. The Spirit was the car that was actually faster. Nobody cared. $17,000. Fast as the M5. Faster than the SHO. Motor Trend's Shootout champion. Twice. Nobody believed it then. Nobody remembers it now. Production numbers tell the extinction story. 1991, 1,208 units built. Customers who knew, bought. Enthusiasts who understood, ordered. Everyone else bought Taurus SHOs or saved for M5s because image matters more than stopwatches. Then 1992 arrived. 191 units. 191. Total 2-year production. 1,399 Spirit RTs. Chrysler killed it after 2 model years because Detroit hates proving they can compete. But wait, it gets weirder. The car died because it was too good at being terrible. Yes, it was fast. Astonishingly fast. But the torque steer scared buyers. The wheel spin frustrated drivers. The chassis couldn't cash the checks the engine was writing. The Spirit RT was a car that impressed automotive journalists and terrified regular customers. Motor Trend gave it shootout victories. Car and driver praised the engine while savaging the chassis. Buyers stayed away because competence isn't the same as confidence. Chrysler didn't market it aggressively because Chrysler knew what they'd built. No Super Bowl commercials, no racing programs, no celebrity endorsements. The Spirit RT existed in automotive purgatory. Too expensive and raw for typical Spirit buyers. Too anonymous and compromised for performance enthusiasts who wanted the Taurus SHO's refinement or saved for German prestige. It fell between market segments and disappeared because admitting a Dodge could be fast required Americans to admit they'd been wrong about Detroit. The real reason it died? The Spirit body was dated, K-car bones showing through every panel. Sales of the entire Spirit line were declining. The economy softened in 1991 and 1992. Chrysler was developing the LH platform, cloud cars with modern styling and engineering. The Spirit RT was a performance showcase for an architecture Chrysler wanted to bury. They proved they could build fast sedans, then immediately decided they didn't want to. The Turbo 3 engine itself was extraordinary, so well engineered it was almost suspicious. Lotus designed the cylinder head with variable length intake manifold that changed runner length based on RPM, advanced engine management system, robust bottom end built to handle boost. This wasn't a standard engine with a turbo strapped on. This was designed from the beginning as a forced induction performance engine. Chrysler paid Lotus serious money for serious engineering, then put it in a rental car body because Detroit. Plot twist. Enthusiasts who bought Spirit RTs and tuned them discovered the engine could handle significantly more boost than stock. 300 horsepower was achievable with basic modifications. Bigger turbo, better intercooler, engine management tuning. The bottom end was strong enough to handle it. Lotus had over-engineered the internals because British engineering doesn't do halfway insanity. They either build fragile masterpieces or bulletproof monsters. The Turbo 3 was the latter wearing a Dodge badge. Contemporary reviews were confused and hilarious. Car and driver praised the straight-line performance while complaining about everything else. Feeble chassis, torque steer, wheel spin, rental car interior, anonymous styling. Motor Trend kept crowning it Shootout winner while acknowledging the compromises. Road and Track barely mentioned it. Front-wheel drive turbo sedans weren't their editorial focus. Hot Rod tested it and loved the drag strip performance while noting street driving required constant traction management and prayer. Ownership experience was polarizing. And by polarizing, I mean it separated competent drivers from everyone else. Enthusiasts who understood what they bought, a straight-line missile in sleeper packaging, loved them. Drivers who expected BMW-level refinement hated them. The Spirit RT demanded skill. Stab the throttle in first gear with the wheel turned and you'd swap lanes involuntarily. Launch hard, and you'd light up the inside tire instantly. Because Chrysler gave it an open differential that turned every aggressive launch into a one-tire fire festival. This was not a point-and-shoot sedan. This was a car that fought back and required you to win. Reliability was surprisingly decent. Lotus engineering meant durability when properly maintained. The Turbo 3 engine proved robust with proper oil changes. The Gatrag transmission was bulletproof. The K-car platform underneath was ancient, but proven through millions of rental fleet miles. Problems emerged from the aggressive state of tune. Turbochargers failed if maintenance was neglected. Head gaskets leaked if cooling systems were ignored. Manual transmissions needed clutch replacements under hard use. Treat it like a performance car, and it lasted. Treat it like a rental Spirit, and it died. Appropriately. 1,399 were built. Motor Trend's domestic sports sedan shootout champion, twice. Fast as the BMW M5, gone in 2 years. Because Chrysler. The Spirit RT represents everything brilliant and broken about Chrysler in the early 1990s. They had engineering talent. Lotus collaboration proved that. They had ambition. Claiming fastest sedan in the world took confidence. They had performance capability. Matching the M5 wasn't luck or marketing fiction. But they couldn't escape the K-car platform's limitations, couldn't afford all-new architecture, couldn't market effectively to enthusiasts who didn't believe a Dodge badge could mean performance. So they proved it could, then immediately stopped trying. Today, forgotten, but not because it wasn't good. The Taurus SHO became a legend because it looked the part and felt refined. The BMW M5 became an icon because German prestige sells aspirations. The Spirit RT became a footnote because nobody wanted to admit a $17,000 Dodge could embarrass $60,000 exotics. Survivors trade hands in enthusiast circles for modest money. Most were driven hard and died young. The few remaining are trophies of automotive what-if history, proof that Detroit could compete when they actually tried. But here's what Chrysler actually proved. American manufacturers could build legitimate performance sedans when engineers escaped corporate committees. The Spirit RT demolished the myth that front-wheel drive couldn't be fast. $17,000 bought performance that matched $60,000 hand-built machinery. Lotus Engineering and a Dodge proved collaboration could create greatness. Then Chrysler looked at what they'd accomplished, got scared, and ran back to minivans because profits matter more than pride. The automotive world moved on, and Chrysler made sure nobody remembered. They built minivans and SUVs while performance sedans became German and Japanese territories. The Spirit RT's legacy died with the K-car platform. No spiritual successor arrived. No modern interpretation exists. It was a 2-year experiment in throwing Lotus Engineering at rental car architecture and hoping for magic. And for 1,399 customers, magic happened. Then Chrysler killed the magician and burned the blueprints. Motor Trend's Shootout Championships, twice. Car and driver's test data. 141 miles per hour top speed, 5.8 seconds to 60. 14.5 at 97 in the quarter mile. Fast as the M5, faster than the SHO. 224 horsepower from a Lotus-engineered Turbo 4. 1,399 built, gone in 2 years. This was the Dodge Spirit RT, the fastest sleeper sedan America ever built. The performance car that proved Detroit could compete, and the achievement Chrysler immediately tried to forget because winning was apparently too embarrassing. If you thought a Dodge couldn't hang with BMW, you weren't alone. Chrysler didn't believe it either until Lotus proved them wrong. But this is Car Chronicles, where we dig up the forgotten performance cars Detroit built when engineers temporarily escaped corporate committees and accountants took long lunches. The Spirit RT proved American manufacturers could build fast sedans for reasonable money. They just couldn't market them, sustain them, or convince anyone to believe in them. Mostly because believing in them would require admitting Detroit wasn't incompetent, just unmotivated. Hit subscribe for more forgotten performance cars that embarrassed everything they raced, then got killed for succeeding. Next week, another sleeper nobody remembers that made expensive exotics nervous. This is Car Chronicles. Don't sleep on the sleepers.